in the socialization and culturalization of students. However, the main function of schooling itself is to instill knowledge into students to teach them the necessary skills to be successful. School is made up of many different things, but the main, most important part of school itself is grades. The function of grading itself is to measure students' knowledge. Grading for learning is trying to make that a little bit more accurate by only having grades reflect this knowledge and take the soft skills behaviors out.
We've analyzed grading for learning with the sociological perspective of functionalism. We focus on the functions and dysfunctions of this upcoming curriculum in the school district. To review functionalism views society as working together. For example, different parts of a machine work together to work properly. Along with functionalism, society's intent has latent functions, which is an intended function, and it also has manifest functions, which is an unintended function. Some manifest functions may be good and some may be bad. This sociological perspective is very relevant in this upcoming curriculum.
So what is grading for learning? Grading for learning is a curriculum that youth will be adopting next year. Grading for learning is hard to explain, but the teachers we interviewed offered their perspective on what grading for learning is.
Grading for learning is the definition of what a grade assessment is. So when you put an A or a B on a transcript, we're defining what does that actually mean. And so grading for learning, the idea is that that grade is only signifying what somebody has done for that learning. Our grading for learning, it is in theory a means of assessing student progress based on standards, and if students are going to meet those standards, they get a certain grade. If they haven't met those standards, they get a chance to keep on going until they do meet those standards. So basically saying, here is the bar, you're going to keep on jumping to that bar until you get over that bar.
Grading for learning is frustrating.
Grading for learning is more than just looking for methods to make the grade more fair, reliable, valid, and my understanding is that we're supposed to separate learning from behavior, getting down to what they truly want, and making that the grade. Grade.
Exit full screen. Above it. Up.
So the goal for grading for learning is to make grades more accurate so there's consistencies between classrooms. The purpose of this presentation is to help you form an opinion on whether or not you support grading for learning.
So we surveyed 156 students and 28 staff on their feelings towards grading for learning. At the beginning of the survey, we asked what their feelings towards grading for learning were from what they know about it, and less than 10% of students and only 31% of staff said that they like or strongly like it. When we asked if they believe that current grades accurately portray a student's knowledge, only 21% of students and 32% of teachers said yes. We also asked what more accurately reflects a student's knowledge, assessing them on preset standards or comparing them to their peers, and 73% of students and 100% of staff chose preset standards, which is something that will be implemented with the grading for learning system.
So what are the fixes? Currently there are 7 fixes in the grading for learning curriculum. Fix number 1 says that only academic achievement should be recorded in grades, that a student's behavior should be reported separately. The function of this is that there will be more accurate grades in terms of the student's learning. One problem that could arise is that the majority of the focus of the student will be on the academic proportion of the grade.
Fix number 2 says late work should not receive a reduced grade. Some of the functions of this is it's a better reflection on the content for a student, as well as it gives more time for students to get their homework done. This also improves their time management, mixing in extracurriculars such as sports with homework. Some of the dysfunctions of this is students may procrastinate until the last minute, as well as it does not prepare us for the real world where we cannot show up late to our jobs.
Grading fix number 3 is up next in the Grading for Learning curriculum. This states that extra credit or bonus points should not be given, only in evidence that the student has put in more work, and that should result in extra credit. Some functions of this would be a more accurate learning reflection, so there's no extra credit cushion within the grade, and it would reduce grade inflation, as that has been a problem in the school system for a while now. And a dysfunction of this would be a lower grade point average, considering that the cushion will be gone.
Fix 4 focuses on academic dishonesty. With this fix, cheating will no longer be punished by reduced grades, but the student will be reassessed. Some of the functions are that with anything in life, common mistakes are easy to make, so this fix will give you a second chance. Another function is that the students will gain a better reflection on learning the content as they get to relearn the questions they didn't know on a test versus just failing it and not gaining anything. Some of the dysfunctions are that students may begin to cheat if they know that they can just retake the test. This also requires extra work for the teachers, and it doesn't prepare us for the real world as outside of grading for learning, or dishonesty has consequences.
Fix number 5 is that attendance should not be considered in grade determinations. This means that you will not get points off if you miss a class. Some functions of this is that grades will more accurately portray the learning of a student, as attendance will be in a separate behavior grade. And a dysfunction of this is that students will not want to come to class if it doesn't affect their grade, along with it does not prepare us for the real world, where we will have to be present at our jobs.
Fix number 6 states that when grading group projects, it will not include only group scores. The function of this is that there will be an individual grade which focuses on the learning of the single student. This also eliminates the problem if a student does the entire majority of the workload in the project and the rest of the group receives the same grade. A problem could arise, however, if someone takes over the assignment and the rest of the group receives a poor grade.
Fix number 7 says that students will be assessed on their, says that students will be assessed on preset standards rather than assessing them to other students. Some of the functions of this is it takes teachers' opinions out of their grade, as well as it adds consistency through the classrooms. Some of the dysfunctions of this is it's a difficult grade to put in a measuring scale, as well as it does not prepare us for the real world where we are assessed to by our peers.
Sandra Matheson is an author and professor at the University of British Columbia. She states that grades are superficial and not all that helpful in the learning process. She helps illustrate her point with the example of medical students. She says that while training arguably some of the most important professionals, most medical schools have moved away from assigning letter grades or percentages. Instead, they use a simple pass-fail model. Researchers have looked at the effect this had on the quality of graduates, and it hasn't had a detrimental effect on the quality of medical care. This brings up the question of why do we believe that our students are better off on some kind of point system?
So some of the concerns that teachers have was reflected in the dysfunctions section of this presentation. However, the Appleton Area School District is kind of debating about putting a career readiness grade in. Career readiness will basically take care of all the soft skills, which are like the behaviors, coming to school on time, doing your homework, not cheating. All that would go under your career readiness grade. The Appleton Area School District is not making 2 different grades to say that those behaviors aren't important, but they're separating the grades because they believe the soft skills are so important that they need to be better reflected.
So, have you now formed an opinion on grading for learning? At the end of our survey, we asked staff and students again what their opinions are on this new system. 18% of students said that they like or strongly like it, which went up 8%, and 35% of staff, which went up 4%. But although the numbers went up, the majority of staff and students are not in favor of this new grading system. The reason many are against this change is because there is no hard evidence to show if this has made a positive impact on school systems. And this is because multiple grading fixes are being implemented at a time. As Mr. Scherenbach said, in chemistry, you only change one variable at a time to get accurate results.
However, the Appleton Area School District is using other districts around the state that have already implemented this new grading curriculum as their research. By interviewing those schools, they have come to the conclusion that this is an improved new grading curriculum.
Some of the Wisconsin schools that are participating in grading for learning are DeForest High School, Sun Prairie, Poinet, and Wauwatosa. After looking at each of their home pages, their explanation and definition are all along the same lines that grading for learning is a system that better reflects student reflection and responsibility.
At this time, we'll be handing out papers. Please put it face down while you wait. The answer was C. Number 2, the answer was B. 3, the answer was B. 4, the answer was D. And 5, the answer was B. Did you get what you were looking for? We assume not.
So obviously this test was really hard and we didn't teach you guys anything beforehand. But for the sake of this activity and presentation, this is how kind of we're summarizing what grading for learning is. So with the new curriculum, you guys would be able to come to the teacher and get more help on this subject that you guys didn't know a lot about. And then you'd be able to be reassessed after you prove to the teacher that you did something on your own time to like basically learn something and meet those standards. All right, we have like 6 minutes if anybody has anything they'd like to add. Any questions? Yeah.
So what is your guys' opinion on grading for learning? Do you think it's good or bad?
I think, well, my opinion personally is that right now there's so much like what ifs, but for the most part I think there needs to be a fix to our grading system. I think it's flawed and I think it's cool that we're doing something to try to fix it, whether or not it'll be a success or not, at least we're trying something.
What flaw is in the current grading system?
There's a lot of grade inflation and extra credit. There's also an inconsistency from classroom to classroom for each standards aren't the same. So if you have one social studies teacher compared to another, students are learning different things.
And one of our questions on our survey was if a teacher gives extra credit for bringing Kleenex in, does that accurately portray a student's grade? And we don't believe it really does, and grading for learning takes care of this.
Do you think that for grading for learning, when it goes into place, that there's going to be a negative effect and then a positive effect first?
I think it's going to take a lot of time for, kind of what Mr. Dew said, it's a huge change in our community. Isn't really ready for it. We're all so in love with the A, getting a 4.0 and all that we'll do anything to get that, whether it is bringing in Kleenex box or whatever it might be, where this is bringing it back and this is saying, do you know A, B, and C? And if you don't, that's okay. Let's take as much time as you need to learn that. So yeah, there's going to be a lot lower because right now they're thinking about having a 0 to 4 point scale. And a 3 would be, I understand this. But a 4 would be, I understand it and more. I go above that. So most people would only get 3s in all your subjects and maybe 1 or 2 4s.
For example, in math, you'd get a 3 if you could solve the problem, but then if you could solve the problem in multiple ways, that would earn you a 4.
Okay, so like, obviously right now we're graded on a 4.0 scale, and that's what colleges go off of. So what are they gonna do if we implement grading for learning, and like all of a sudden you get all of these seniors that are here that only have 3s that look like just a 3.0 on the 4.0 scale? What are we gonna do?
Well, there's a conversion chart, and that's the reason why we're waiting until the school district's waiting until 2019 to fully implement that, because that is like a gray area that you're trying to still figure out. But basically, there's a conversion chart, as well as colleges are willing to work with this, and we're not the first, so they have already been experienced and have already kind of know how to adopt this and accept it. Jimmy?
Who do you think is going to get affected by this, or like in the student demographic? Like, did you even I just wanted to ask this because, like, do you think some of the people that have 4.0s are still going to keep them, or do you think that some of the lower kids are going to get better? How do you think that's going to change?
I personally think the 4.0 students most of them are gonna lose their 4.0. And I think the students that have lower grades, it's gonna help them bring it up, because now there isn't a hard deadline. Like, you have to know this by this certain amount of time. Now you can have as much time as you personally need in order to understand something.
I'm going to hop on the back of that one. If you look at our grades today, a C is usually like the good understanding for it, and then B is above average, and then A is when you just excel at the knowledge of that. Right now, we have so much grade inflation that's what the problem is, that everybody has 4.0s, it seems like. So we're going to go back to how it should be with this.
Okay,